were you stunned that the Pacers dominated Game 6 in the way that they did last night?
Pretty stunned, yeah, especially when we heard the news about Tyrese Halliburton's calf injury, and I do think that was legitimate. He played a major off-ball role, but Pacers role players come through, and that's the way they've won a lot of games, is by a team approach. But the Thunder got punked last night, and I thought that was a mentality thing, that was a discipline thing, didn't have the requisite focus you need to win an NBA championship. So, yeah, it's still in their favor, but that was they got embarrassed last night.
Yeah, can I ask about Tyrese Halliburton? Because maybe I was missing something because I was watching it on TV. He didn't look hurt at all to me. Like the way that he was cutting, the way that his feet were moving.
Sure.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if you wouldn't have told me before the game that something was wrong with him, like I saw him wearing that weird belt. I don't know if that had anything to do with his calf, but still, did he look hurt?
It's a great question, and these things we try to play the doctor from afar, and it always gets me into trouble. But I really did see a shift in the way that he plays, because there were on-ball moments for him. That pass to Pascal Siakam just before the half, I mean that's a play that will live in NBA lore if the Pacers go on to win that thing. And that dunk from Siakam just incredible. So I do think he's dealing with it, but I think you've got to give credit to the training staff. You got to give credit to him and Rick Carlisle, man, for having the fortitude to put him out there in a compromising situation. So I do think he was hurt, but was able to make an impact regardless.
So Matt, you never want to suggest that a team, wasn't prepared or wasn't motivated, but did they maybe take the Thunder, maybe take the Pacers a little bit more lightly because of the possibility that Hallie wasn't 100%?
It could be at times in this postseason when they've lapsed. It's been their mentality, it's been their mindset. And when you look at the scope of NBA history, you guys know this. Young teams this young, they typically don't get to this level. They don't have a chance to win an NBA title, and part of that I think is experience. I think part of that is being there, having been humiliated, and learning the lesson the hard way. So I think you have to say there's probably an element last night because they didn't bring the right mindset, which is kind of mind-boggling in game 6 of an NBA Finals.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of trends, like simply from a betting standpoint. We're a betting show. And one thing we've noticed during the regular season and the postseason, the Thunder have been incredible coming off losses. Do we expect a better performance? Obviously, it's Game 7, one would think, but this is a trend we've seen all season long. Do you expect the Thunder to win Game 7?
Yeah, I would bet on that, because that is one thing about this team. You're right. When they get beat, typically they respond. When they get embarrassed, typically they respond and win by margin. Now, that said, this is the NBA Finals, and I think the pressure, I can see it, the way that these guys wear it. It's starting to wear on them. But Game 7 at home, you're at the mercy of cold, hot shooting night, but you do have to feel extremely good. Based on what you said there, they have a track record of responding after they get embarrassed.
We're talking with Matt Ravis. He is host of the Thunder pregame, halftime, and postgame show on the Thunder Radio Network, also on the Sports Animal 98.1 in Oklahoma City. Matt, Chet Holmgren has been okay in the finals, very good in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Western Conference Finals, but hasn't necessarily lived up to the standard he has set throughout the season. How much will they need him in Game 7?
Oh, they're going to need him. Defensively, he has been key. He has been key for this Thunder run. Now, his shooting numbers, if you're a Thunder fan, you don't want to look at those. He and Miles Turner, I think, are actually having a competition to see who can have a worse series, which is kind of, I didn't expect to see that. So they're going to need Chet Holmgren physically, just getting repelled, bounced off of defenders, getting punked in ways last night. You can't have that happen. And he's a guy who, I guarantee you, these next couple of days, when these the coaches, when Mark Daigneault's asked about it, when Shea is asked about it, when Jalen Williams is asked about it, they're going to tell us he's the last guy that we worry about because he can course correct. And for his part, he took blame last night, just like every Thunder player did. So he has to be better defensively and especially offensively, because shooting as poorly as he has so far in the NBA Finals is historically bad.
So it seems like you're going to be on the Thunder to win the NBA Finals and win Game 7. What's the case for the Pacers, though?
I will, but very, very nervously because, I've got some contradictory thoughts here because like what you said a minute ago about the return for the Thunder and the comeback for the Thunder, but at the same time, this is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That said, momentum has not really been a case in this series. You would think it would play a part in this series, but really just when you think one team has seized momentum, that's when the other team comes up. So I would not count anything out for this Pacers team, especially on the road. And, they're at the one team or the other is at the mercy of some role players going off of the bench or the big three for the Thunder going off, for example. So I would not count this Pacers team out whatsoever. What they've done in this postseason is legendary.
Matt, when you look at Game 7, what's the one thing that needs to change for the Thunder? Even though they're great after losses, what's the one thing you would say has to change for them to win?
I think the half-court offense, which, in Game 4, I know the Thunder were able to do some things with Shea and Jalen Williams late in the game, and you had the Jalen Williams 40-piece followed up by a minus 40 in Game 6. But Shea was really good in that game as well. And those guys are going to have to be flat out a whole lot better. Those guys are going to have to provide better scoring, better defense, facilitate the ball a lot better because the half-court offense in Game 4 was very brutal. And I saw a lot of things like that in Game 6. No ball movement, no focus, no intentionality. The Pacers defense dialed back their full-court pressure and completely stymied the Thunder. So they have to find some good looks, generate some good looks in the half-court offense.
Yeah, normally if it's a Game 7 and you have the MVP on your side, I would say, hey, the MVP is going to have to go off in this game for the Thunder to win. And maybe that's the case, but I feel like the Thunder are such a deep team. Right now I'm looking at the points prop. For SGA, it's sitting around 34.5. Does SGA have to have a big game for the Thunder to win this?
He knows it. I think he came out early in Game 6 trying to deliver the knockout punch, and that's such a tough balancing act for a superstar. Is when do I take over? When do I involve my teammates? He's kind of a guy who likes to feel his way into games and kind of feel what the defense is throwing at him, and he typically has his better scoring quarters late in the game. So if the Thunder want to win, and you guys know what the odds are, I think 34 is going to be a number that Shea will have to hit. And it may not be the most efficient night ever, but it's going to be, I think, a rock fight. I think it's going to be a blood and guts type of win, and that's the type of performance you need from the MVP.
Matt, just from a macro perspective, the fact that the Thunder are here is really a credit to Sam Presti because we sort of all saw this coming, right? Like eventually these guys are going to come together and compete for a title. How have you seen this team grow over the past couple of years to get to this point?
It's amazing, and we're about to face some emotional listeners today. We're going to field a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts. People are going to be called for firing, trades and all this stuff because that's what happens after a loss. But I'm going to remind people that if you had told me at the start of the season, if we had told you at the start of the year that, hey, the team that you root for is going to be playing in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you would take that sight unseen. So that perspective needs to be remembered. And, there was a lot of talk about the Thunder and tanking, and they really weren't down and out for very long. And this team is still ahead of schedule. And Thunder fans don't want to hear that right now because that does sound like an excuse in the wake of a big loss. But that's a testament to what Presti has built, and he's had to change philosophies. I think he learned some hard lessons from the Westbrook and Durant era. And I think that he has positioned this team now to where there's not an NBA team, I think, that would trade places, or at least if there is one, it's maybe the San Antonio Spurs, and that might be about it. And so this team is positioned as well as any other in this next CBA era.
I always like to ask either beat writers or guys who are in that specific city about the temperature of the fan base. Like, how confident do you think Thunder fans feel right now? Because obviously they look like the better team, but again, the Pacers have proven a lot of people wrong, and sometimes it feels like the pressure is on the favorite. Be like, hey, this is your chance, you're supposed to get this done. How's the fan base feeling?
It's funny how history can compound that too, because like Game 6, we can go back to the 2016. That was when Kevin Durant was still on the Thunder. That was one where the Thunder were one win away from being in the NBA Finals, and the Thunder, they really felt like that was their year to win it. And Klay Thompson goes off in that game, and then you're you're done. And so there's some built-in history. I think there's some, for lack of a better way to put it, some PTSD with Thunder fans there in Game 6. And so the temperature is very nervous, as it always is, I think, and they're very emotional. There's a lot of Thunder fans who made the 10.5-hour drive from OKC to Indiana. It didn't feel like their hard labor there was repaid by the Thunder at all last night. And so the temperature is it's very nervous. But again, I think people need to remember that Game 7, like, this is why you played the regular season as hard as you did, to have the right to host this. And home teams in Game 7s typically win. And so I think they'll go through the 7 stages of grief, but ultimately they'll show up in spades. And I think it'll be the best environment you'll find in Game 7.